Hello, my name is Katie Schmid, and the ethnography I chose to read is called Fierce Climate, Sacred Ground by Elizabeth Marino. Looks like this. This ethnography is very political. It calls to action both citizens and lawmakers to mitigate climate change. Marino does this through her observations and studies of the Shishmaref people. The Shishmaref are a native Alaskan population who have lived there for hundreds of years. They live on an island that is currently being destroyed by floods, wind, and storms, and it is being eroded away, and they are threatened with relocation. I say threatened because these people are seal hunters. They live on their island and they hunt seals when the ice freezes, and their culture is highly based around the seal hunt. So to move them inland would take away the seal hunt, and they feel it would also take away their culture. I believe this ethnography is interpretive anthropology. Marino uses the seal hunt and their connection to it and the land to explain to us why they are fearful of leaving and why this impacts their culture so much. So, climate change is a big deal in this book, and the beginning of the book is actually mostly about the science behind climate change, while the second half is more about the anthropological study of the Shishmaref people and their opinions. She does go through a crisis of representation, which is seen when she starts diving into the anthropological study. She does overcome this by using disclaimers, saying that she's not really a Shishmaref native and that these are her opinions and observations. She includes herself, she uses I statements, but she also does balance it out with interviews and Shishmaref locals' actual opinions and feelings. During one part of the book, I remember she was participating in a conference call between the Shishmaref government and the Alaskan government to discuss relocation. And not only does she include the I statements during this conference call, but at the end she also interviews Shishmaref locals who were present and how they feel and how they experienced this event. So the methods she uses in this book are interviews, the use of informant stories, and participant observation as well. So some similarities to Basso are really focus on the cultures that they studied. Both the Apache and the Shishmaref are native people who use the land as a big part of their culture. The Apache use this with stories and to kind of guide their children to make the right moral decisions. The Shishmaref use the land as their economy and kind of their group setting to keep them all together as a big family. Now this brings me to Marino's relationship with the Shishmaref. She considers them family, actually, and she says that when she returns to Shishmaref, it's like returning to her second home. And this is very similar to Basso. He has a very close relationship to his informants. And this is different from Swedenborg, whose informants we see are more like interviewees. And that's the difference between the two cultures. The Palestinians don't want to open up to the outsiders, whereas the Shishmaref and the Apache are okay with it. They'll open up to you and become like family. The other similarity between Basso and Marino is that they both have a clear end and a clear beginning to their studies. They aren't studying necessarily throughout their whole life the way Swedenborg is. Swedenborg and Marino do have a lot of similarities in their writing style, though. They both tackle the importance and the explanations of why this study is important in the beginning part of their story, and then later they include the anthropological study. Marino focuses on climate change and what's happening with it and why it's important and why we should mitigate, and then she uses the observations and the studies of the people to kind of back up all of the information she lays on us with climate change. The other main similarity between the two is their use of language. They both use native language in their ethnographies. However, they don't have a pronunciation guide like Basso does. The language to the Apache and Basso's ethnography is very, very important. However, with Marino and Swedenborg, the language isn't necessarily as important. And this makes it a little bit more challenging to read, in my opinion, because there was no pronunciation guide and I was constantly tripping over the foreign words. But overall, I would say that Fierce Climate, Sacred Ground was written very well, and it does portray its point clearly. She really emphasizes climate change and why it is such a big deal to the Shishmaref people, and why we should change what we're doing so that in the future it doesn't impact such Native people so harshly. The biggest weakness I saw in her ethnography was the actual anthropological side of it. She even says in the ethnography that she's uncomfortable writing this part, and you can see that. I feel that if she was going to go back to the Shishmaref people and study them again, that she would have a whole nother book she could write just about the seal hunt culture. All right, thank you.